Welcome to Paranormal X and Royal Haunts. The Normans. England saw a totally different turning point in 1066 when Harold Godwinson, who had been proclaimed king, found he had to fight to keep it. Edward the Confessor could be seen as the first king of England, as he was the first monarch to have his image on the coins used in the country as a whole. Edward the Confessor was said to have performed many miracles during his lifetime, one being that his touch could cure what was called the king's evil, which is now known as scrofula. The king's touch being the cure, this practice continued through to the reign of Queen Anne. Edward married Editha, who was also the sister of Harold Godwinson. It was a very political match, with Edward refusing to consummate the union on religious grounds. When Edward died, Editha spent what time was left to her as a nun at Lady Place in Berkshire. It is here where a grey lady haunts, which is thought to be the former queen consort. Edward the Confessor spent the last years of his life more a monk than a king, overseeing the building of Westminster Abbey, where he was interred. On Edward's death, bearing no children, Harold claimed that he had been named successor, but there was a stronger claimant in Edward's nephew, William, Duke of Normandy, who was already preparing an invasion force. But first Harold had to see off others who would have his crown. Harold of Norway was already making good, having won one battle. That was until he met Harold at Stamford Bridge. With one victory won, there was no time to rest, as Harold and his battle-weary army had to march 240 miles to meet the Normans led by William. The two armies met at Hastings, and in the ensuing battle Harold was killed by an arrow piercing his eye. They say the battlefield is still haunted by those who were slain on that fateful day. Battle Abbey was commissioned by William I as a monument to those on both sides who died fighting so valiantly. The foundations are said to have been laid where Harold took his last breath, with a high altar being placed where he fell, though this was mutilated during Henry VIII's dissolution. Along with the men who died at Hastings, Harold is reputed to haunt, still with the arrow protruding from his eye. There have also been claims that the battle itself is reenacted in the sky above the actual battlefield. Harold was taken to Waltham Abbey, which he had founded, but he doesn't seem to have found much peace, as he is also said to haunt here. Pevensey Castle, close to the Hastings battlefield, is said to have strains of battle. This phenomena is heard at night, dating back to the Norman conquest, when William and his well-equipped army landed at Pevensey Bay. The procession is said to be seen on bright moonlight nights, their armour glinting as they progress over the marshes. This reoccurring scene is thought to be William's failed attempt to take the castle, with the apparitions fading beside or into the moat. With William I came the French language and Norman rule, with those who served their king being granted lands to build castles. William had a series of castles built to fend off any further invasion, including the White Tower, which is now part of the Tower of London. The famous ravens of the tower were already established, and they are associated with the site prior to the building rather than the tower itself. William I died in 1087, and as was usual, the second son received conquered lands while the eldest ruled Normandy. William II, known as William Rufus, due to his ruddy complexion, gained many enemies during his 13-year reign, and he died under very mysterious circumstances. In the New Forest, near Minehead, is the Rufus Stone, which marks the spot where William II was killed by a stray arrow while out hunting. His body was left where it fell, and the next day taken by haycart, where he was interred at Winchester Cathedral. If the marker is in the correct spot, it would be difficult for an arrow to deflect, as those present stated. The line of trees being just the same as when William went out that fateful day in pursuit of game. The one who gained the most from William's death was his younger brother Henry. The brothers had always been at odds with one another, with Henry being expected to enter the church, which had its own power and wealth. But Henry wasn't content with being the King of England, and invading Normandy imprisoned his brother Robert, the eldest son of William I, who remained a prisoner for the rest of his life. Henry I died at Rouen in France from food poisoning after eating lampreys. His death left only a female to succeed him, and though the barons had sworn to accept Matilda, that oath meant nothing once the king was dead. It meant years of strife and war for the English, as Matilda, naming herself Lady of the English, fought for control against her cousin Stephen, as he was one of the most strongest male contenders, and with the support of the barons took the crown. And so followed civil war and bloodshed until Matilda's son claimed the crown, and so came the House of Plantagenet.